Hey, thanks for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, which everyone is because this is the first video that I'm posting, I want to say thank you for being here. And I kind of want to explain before I get into it. Today I'm going to be talking to Brandon, the owner of Perfect Tint and Perfect Tilt Pinball here in Springfield, Missouri. I kind of just want to explain that what I'm trying to do with this channel. So I love the idea of entrepreneurship and owning my own business one day. And so I figured, why not go out and try to meet the people who are already doing it and see how they do it and how they do it best. So another way that I wanted to kind of incorporate my passion of cars is finding these business owners that are high net worth and usually have some kind of either built car like a Mustang or Corvette or just anything that's crazy that catches someone's eye. Obviously, I want these videos to be entertaining, but also high-end cars like we're going to be talking about today with Brandon, who's got a Ferrari F8, which I think is pretty cool. And sometimes high-end cars aren't necessarily what people like Ferraris, Lamborghinis. People may not like those because it just doesn't pique their interest because of how expensive they are, which makes sense. But to me, I want to get both perspectives, and I think there's a lot of psychology that you can find in the people buying the high-end cars and then people building the low-end cars. So kind of just trying to understand the psychology of business, how business works, and just trying to motivate a younger generation is all I'm really trying to do. So yeah, let's get into it. This is Brandon, the owner of Perfect Tint and Perfect Tilt Pinball, and gold entrepreneur, gold enthusiast.
Yeah, it's more of a hobby than anything.
Yeah,
Kind of like
yeah.
the pinball place. It's more of a hobby business than
Right.
anything. I feel like you work to a certain point building a business, and then you find good employees. The business runs itself in a way that you put systems in place that make it efficient. And like I said, good employees is important, hard to find. And from there, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So you need to constantly try to take your money that you're earning from one place, move it somewhere else where you can turn $1 into $2, $5 into $10. Right. So I feel like if you just take a shoebox full of money and shove it under your bed with inflation, you're going to end up really losing a lot of money. So
Right.
try to take your money and not blow it. Invest in something that'll make that money grow.
Yeah. So tell us kind of like how you got into tinting. 'Cause I know tinting is like the first big thing that got you kind of to be your own entrepreneur or whatever. And tell us about where that all started.
I just growing up around old classic cars and wrenching on them. You know, get out of high school from a small town and you go, well, what am I going to do? I need to find a career at some point. And I didn't want to be a mechanic. I didn't want to work on cars all the time mechanically. I like doing it as a hobby. So I feel like when you have to do it for work, it takes the fun out of it.
I can confirm.
Hobby.
It's not fun when you do it every day.
Yeah,
nothing is.
So then you end up not, because I used to fix up and build classic cars, and that was a fun hobby for me.
Right.
I could buy a car for a few $1,000s and then turn around and sell it, enjoy it for a year or so, turn around and sell it, make a little bit of money. And then take that car and maybe while I'm enjoying that car, start on another one, and then take those two cars and then step up to something a little bit nicer.
Right.
Put my special touches on it, and just try to create a vision in my mind of what I want it to look like, and make it come true, and hope people enjoy it as much as I do, and pass it down to the next person, and just keep working my way up. So started with a since self-employed, started with a Nissan 350Z, and then just kept working them up. And I was old Impalas and Lincoln Continental, the old Suicide Continental.
Yeah.
And then I bought my first Ferrari 6 years ago, probably. The 458. Doing paint protection film, you that's primarily what you're putting it on is nice cars. So you
Right.
see all these cars coming in, you're like, man, I want one of those, and I
Yeah.
want one of those, and Hellcat Chargers when they came out, I gotta have one. They sound so
Right.
good, and so, but I set a goal for myself of one day I'll have a 458 Italia because that was my favorite Ferrari that
Right.
they ever built. Pininfarina design, beautiful car, and enjoyed that car for several years, and then ended up with the F8, and I actually have no regrets upgrading. I feel like it was a really good upgrade. That car is a beast. I mean, it's as tame as you want it to be.
Right.
You can take it out with your wife for dinner and ride in style, or you can take it out on some twisty roads and
Yeah.
have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Right.
It's got more power than the 458. It doesn't have the sound, but I will sacrifice the sound that the 458 had for the performance and the options that this car has.
Right.
And I think the F8 looks better.
Right.
I think it's a good looking car. It was one of the first cars that Ferrari actually designed themselves.
Really?
And yeah, because they always use Pininfarina, which is a great designer, but some people will say, well, it's not. But it's personal opinion. I think it's one of the prettiest cars that they've built.
Yeah.
And but yeah, the 458 always have a special place in my heart because that was the one where you go, being self-employed, you can be like, you forget about working 8 to 5. It's all right. What's my next move? What's the next thing that we're gonna do? How do we make this grow? How do we scale this? How do we improve on that? So you're constantly trying to think of ideas on what can I do to make this better.
Right. There's so much behind that car that represents you that I think a lot of people don't see whenever they look at that car. They see, like, one thing I noticed a lot recently is like Cybertrucks. There's a whole page I follow on Facebook that's just a bunch of people throwing stuff at Cybertrucks or punching them or scratching them or door dinging them on purpose. And it's just like, so many people will hate on something but not understand the hard work that goes behind it. And I think that just comes a lot from people without money who don't want to make money. Because I think the people who are trying to come up understand, like, oh, like, where's he at? What's he done? But people who are, oh, you're just spoiled and stuff like that, I think a lot of that comes too. And so there's just a lot of psychology as far as like how people think about money on any scale. On as far as if you're Jeff Bezos or if you're on the corner of the street, it's just like everyone looks at money a different way. And some people might think it's stupid to buy a Ferrari because it's a waste of money.
Right.
But to you, it makes sense because it's a sign of achievement to you. And
Sign
a lot
of
of people don't see
achievement.
that.
Yeah, sign of achievement. And if you treat the car right and you take care of the car, it's not a mass-produced car. It's going to go up in value. It's
Right.
going to appreciate. Pretty much every Ferrari has went up in value, and it's all on how you take care of them. I mean, and certain models too. The F8 was such a low production number. They only made about as many of those as they did the Pista,
Right.
and you have to really be on a next level tier to be able to get into a Pista, and that's got the Pista engine in it. It's just more comfortable to drive.
Right.
So you still get the performance, but so I mean, last non-hybrid V8 that Ferrari will ever build, they call it the F8, the Final 8. We got to tour the facility. I mean, it's fantastic to see stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, I mean, those cars, you can leave the money in the bank, or you only live once, so you might as well take it out and have a little bit of enjoyment. Put a little bit of money into something
Right.
that it's an investment, but it's not a bad investment. I mean, the money would have been maybe better towards maybe buying a house.
Right.
But you do that with other things.
You gotta balance your happiness and your
Yeah,
money. You can't have all your money saved and not spend it.
Yeah, you gotta enjoy life a little bit. So
Right.
that's something they can take out. Nice days. And because I don't get to drive it very often since I work all the time, when I take it out, it's like, it's that thrill of like when you buy a car for the first time, you're like, oh man, I love this car. I'm going to keep it forever. And you drive it every single day for 5 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get something else. And then you get a new car and you get that new car feeling all over again.
Yeah.
So with the limited time that I have to drive that car, every time I get it, it's an experience.
Right.
Let's get by this.
Oh my gosh, it just eats it. Oh my gosh. So one question that I have for you that I kind of, at my stage of finances, I've been kind of thinking about is like, in the beginning when you're working a job, because obviously I have the mindset and everything to go out and do my own thing, but it's like money obviously like is a strain on me because I don't have all the money in the world to go just start a business. And I've heard that one of the big things when you're starting a business is you should have a year, at least a year of your expenses that you pay for, you should have a year out. And so for me, like, that's kind of a ways to go. So is, in that sense, whenever you're someone who's starting a business at my age or any age really, I guess, is the best way just to keep working somewhere and just save until you're ready to do it? Or how did you do it? Or how would you recommend someone to do it?
So any job that you're working, I see a lot of people that maybe you're working this specific type of job and you see that there's a need for some way to increase efficiency. So you create a tool or some type of device that makes that more efficient.
Right.
And then you take that out and you sell it and you make a bunch of money and then you sell that off and then you do something else. I see people making a lot of money and success that way. Or if you have something that you have in mind, do a lot of research on it, continue to work your job, save your money, put it in a high yield savings account, something that you know is not going to dip, like the stock market where you got to wait it out and ride the wave on that. Put it in a high yield savings account, save your money, but do your research and look at. The reason I started the pinball place was because primarily for a hobby, but also to venture out into something else. And we did a test run at the tent waiting room to see if people actually enjoy like playing pinball.
Right.
And then we saw that there was actually a lot of demand for it. And Springfield, the city that we're in, people like to go out to eat. They like entertainment. They're always looking for something to do. So we moved it to the next level by renting a space out and creating a nice, cool vibe, fun environment for people to come and check out and enjoy. And we went into that with really no debt. So the money that I had been saving, I invested into buying more machines and renovating the space. And if you can do it yourself, save yourself the money. I mean, there's certain things that by code you have to have an electrician, you have to have certain things. But if you can paint a wall and you can nail some boards up, or whatever, or if you got some friends that can help you, we went into that with no debt. So that business, it doesn't have to generate an income for you to be able to feed your family and pay your bills. That business is just, you know what, this is what it's doing, and
just to see what it does.
Yeah, we're scaling.
It grows.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it takes a very little amount of money to keep that place going, and right now we're we're almost a year in on the Tilt pinball place, and the demand has been so crazy. We're going, okay, we've got another year left in this lease, but now we need something bigger. So let's continue to use that space, utilize it to build clientele, to build an interest, to keep people coming back, and then let's now take it to the next level. So over the next 8-9 months that we have left in the lease, we'll acquire some more machines. That way we're not taking a big loan out with the bank. You don't want to go into a business with a bunch of debt. I feel like if you go into business with a bunch of debt, it puts too much stress on you to go, oh man, I've jumped in this thing with both feet. Now I've got to pay the lender. Now I've got to pay for the equipment. Now I've got to pay some employees if I need those. I've got to pay myself so I can eat.
At the end of the day, you can't even pay yourself.
Yeah.
You're running a business that doesn't pay you.
When you're self-employed, you're the last one to get paid.
Right.
Your bills and your employees and everybody else gets paid first. You're the one that gets the scraps left over.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to do it, man, you either need to, whatever you're doing currently for work, find where there's a need for something inside that job, or if you want to do something outside of that, do it in your spare time, do a lot of research, a lot of trial and error. You may start something like we did the pinball place. It may be a total flop, but I feel like a lot of people are too worried about leaving their comfort zone of going, you know what, my 8 to 5 job, I know exactly what I'm going to make every week, and I've got a guaranteed paycheck, but then you're stuck on that plateau.
Yeah. One more thing that I wanted to ask you about, because kind of what I'm trying to do with the whole ported racing thing is talk to real high net worth people, and then people with money but not necessarily Ferrari money. And so to me, what I want to ask you is, like, we kind of talked about it in the car, but like, why choose a Ferrari over building something that can be just as fast? Because obviously it's all a matter of mindset and who the person is, because some people like different things, different sounds, different colors.
Right.
And so I'm curious to you, what makes you go out and say, I want a Ferrari, I don't want a 2,000 horsepower GTR or something like that?
Well, like you said, different strokes for different folks. If that's what you like, then do it. For me personally, I like knowing that I can jump in that car at any time, take it out, it's going to be reliable, it's under a full maintenance plan, it's under warranty, it's covered. It gives me, I've got too much other stuff going on to have to worry about, oh, I just grenaded the engine on it, so me and my buddies have got to pull it out this weekend. I don't have that kind of time.
Right.
You get these high horsepower cars that are pumping out thousands of horsepower. Well, they're tearing them down all the time, and that becomes more of the hobby. So I feel like it depends on where you want to be at. Do you want to be in the competitive racing, high horsepower sports car, supercar? Or do you want to be in something that is a rewarding trophy for your hard work that you can take out and it feels good to jump in it? And it's also going to give you the performance and smiles for miles that you would get with, something else.
I think you make a good, I like your point that you make though, where like for some people, building it is the hobby.
Right.
Some people do just want to jump in the car and they do want to drive it, and this is what I work for, I've earned it, I just want to drive it now. But I think you are right, a lot of people, do enjoy that part of, they want a nice car, they want a fast car, but they love to, okay, let's put injectors in it, and let's put a tune, and let's put bigger turbo on it, and exhaust and everything. And so I think that comes, like I said, with the psychology part of it, that a lot of people just, if they don't have the money, they enjoy building it to be like, not that it could be a Ferrari, but like a Ferrari as far as power-wise.
Yeah, and that's great. I think that there's not a thing in the world wrong with that, because you know, there's the big slogan when you got the guy that's built his car from the frame up next to the guy that's bought his Ferrari, the old slogan of built not bought.
Yep.
But that guy, when he on his way home and he's got to call the tow truck because it's broke down on the side of the road, or he's got to call one of his buddies, it's all in what you enjoy doing. And I think that at the end of the day, it's personal preference. I just love cars. I don't care what they are. So building those old classic cars that I used to do, mini Impalas, old trucks, all other cars, building those cars and having the Ferrari, I've loved both of them just the same. Just speaking from my own personal experience, I've had some of the most fun in my classic cars as I do in the Ferrari.
Yeah.
And I don't really know. It just depends on what you want to do.
And it's probably different stages of life too.
It is.
Some people see that at 20 years old, you may not have $600,000, $700,000 for a car. So what you got is what you love.
Well, and at 20 years old, you got a hell of a lot more energy where you can go out there and work on it.
Yeah.
I don't like paying anybody to work on anything that I have. I want to do it myself. If I got to call a buddy to come help me with something, I will do that. But I like to have my hands in the middle of it, because I've had people do work for me. And there's certain things I can't build a transmission and I can't build an engine, but I can put them in. But I love drag racing. I wish we had a track around here where it's more like road course style driving.
Yeah.
I think that's more exhilarating. I mean, when you line up to a drag strip, it's a lot of fun to have somebody next to you and you see who wins the race, but then you gotta let the car cool down. You're waiting in the line again. I mean, you get like less than 10 seconds of fun, and you've done all this work and all this to see. I mean, because you can spend a lot of money and put a lot of horsepower down.
Throw a rod out the side of the block.
Yeah, or may only gain like a half a second of top end.
Yeah.
So when you got something you could just jump in, I love like when we went out earlier, I've not had that car out in several months. And to be able to get it out on some open roads and curvy roads and be able to just feel it and feel the, you know, they put a lot of money in R&D to make sure this thing is made to handle, and it'll wrap around a corner so quick that you would never even imagine you couldn't do in a normal car.
Right. Well, cool. Last thing I just want to ask is just any advice to anyone young that's wanting to start a business, kind of like me, just some guidance. What would you throw out there? Just a couple things.
Well, find a good partner, spouse, husband, wife. I think that if you have someone on your side, they're going to root for you and they're going to be there for you. They're going to support you.
Right.
If they don't, then they're not the right person for you. My wife helps me and supports me tremendously. So I think having a good partner, be prepared to sacrifice a lot of the free time that you had when you were younger. Put your nose to the grindstone, and your buddy's gonna be like trying to persuade you into going out. Let's go out, let's go do this, let's go do that. Stay focused. There is no 8 to 5. There is no 5 days a week, 7 days a week. Until you get it running, you got it a well-oiled machine. But then by that point, you're going, okay, what can I get into next? There's people that have the mindset of, I just want to work, I want to be able to live within my means. There's nothing wrong with that. Then you have the entrepreneur that goes, I want to do something. I want to create something. I want to build something. I want to be self-employed. I want to be my own boss. I don't want to be a slave to somebody else. So there's different types of people in the world. If you are comfortable working a normal job and living within your means, that's great. Enjoy life. You only get one of them. My life is built around creating things. I'm a stimulated overthinker. I like to think of, how do I improve this? What's my next step? What can I do? An entrepreneur, either an entrepreneur or not. So you have to decide that early on. You have to make a lot of sacrifices. And I also think that good advice is keep your circle of friends really small, because a lot of people, they may be your friends, they may be even your family, but that doesn't mean they're going to stick by your side. And people get jealous, and if people try to break you down or talk down about what you're doing, they're either just jealous, or they want to do it themselves, or they just, I don't know, man. I've realized early on, keep my circle of friends really, really small. It helps you stay focused. Stay focused. Always research, always study, always try to figure out your next move. Do have a backup plan in place. And if you're going to own a business, just treat your people right. Treat your customers right.
Right.
So just make sure you're giving them a good value for their money, and they'll stick with you.
Cool. Well, Brandon, I appreciate it. It was a good talk.
All right.
We had a good evening driving around.
It's a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
Thanks for having me out. And go, if you're in Springfield area, Perfect Tent, hit them up for tent. They got the best tent. Perfect Tilt Pinball. It's a cool pinball arcade. Hit it up, try it, date night, whatever you want to do. But until the next video, thanks for watching, I guess.
Like, share, and support this guy.
He's
very motivated.
Cliche, like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.